Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey, Thriving Farmers. So today's episode is with Charlotte Smith. Now, you probably know Charlotte Smith from her company called 3 Cow Marketing, where she teaches farmers all across the U.S. and around the world about marketing. But we actually dived into when she got started farming, which was over 10 years ago. And we dived into actually how she accidentally started selling her products. She needed to have cow's milk for her children's health. And so people started asking her for the product and she started selling it. And then we also dive into exactly what allowed her to scale up her farm quickly. So she was able to be profitable on her farm within a year because she used this tactic to allow her to scale. And the final thing we discussed a lot of things, but the other big thing I wanted to bring out from our interview was just all about the marketing side. So we discussed everything from building your brand to reaching the right person with your message. We go over why so many beginning farmers scale and how they fail because of that. And we talk about what Charlotte recommends she calls your signature product. So we talk about how you need to craft that and present that and how that can really help grow your farm. And then we also talked about using a website and social media and the exact purposes that each of those plays in your farm marketing and how to make sure that you're using those well and most efficiently. So again, Charlotte's a great friend, had so much fun interviewing her for this, and she's going to be on our summit here in a couple weeks. So super excited to have her presenting there and sharing her expertise. And I know you're going to love this. So join me in welcoming Charlotte Smith to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Charlotte.
Thank you, Michael.
So give us a little bit of an overview of your farming operation.
Well, I run a farm in Oregon, and we started out 10 years ago as a raw milk dairy. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, we expanded to sell other things, and we really focus now on pastured poultry. We scaled back down. You're going to hear about that a little later. But we scaled back down to just we're selling pastured poultry, including we do fresh Thanksgiving turkeys and raw milk. And this is the first year after 10 years, we're taking the winter off from raw milk production for sustainability reasons. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay. And then you also, to give people context, you also teach marketing to farmers. So that's also a big portion of your time now.
Yes, I do that, I would say, full time.
Okay, very cool. So talk to us about your background. How did you get into the raw milk business?
Well, the raw milk business specifically was because my children had eczema and I grew up on a farm. Mm-hmm. So I understood the farm lifestyle. And when my kids got eczema, nothing helped. Mm-hmm. And they had it for 6 years over large parts of their body. And somebody recommended I try raw milk, which I'd never heard of before. And this was about 15 years ago. So I actually found some, which was hard. Sometimes you have to go underground. And my kids' eczema went away, which as a mother is just incredible, of course. Mm-hmm. And it became really mandatory that they have that. And what happened is in the first 3 years of drinking raw milk, our farmers kept going out of business. Our raw milk farmer, there would be like a hard winter, and so they'd close up shop, or a hard summer of drought, and they'd close up shop. And for me, I had to have it. So I got this crazy idea that since I had this farming background, I would start my own raw milk dairy 10 years ago. So it came out of a need to provide my children with the thing that was keeping them healthy.
Okay, so you started with the raw milk and then you start for yourself, but then did you start selling it right away, or is that when you started to have overproduction?
Yeah, I did start selling it right away. As anyone who has a milk cow knows, they give, they can give 6, 7, 8 gallons a day, which is way too much for one family. And so in the year planning to start my farm, all my girlfriends they were like, wow, that's crazy. You're buying a cow. We want to try milk from a cow. We've never had milk from a cow. So when I brought my first cow home, I had 20 customers from day one.
Wow.
And we just grew from there.
Very cool. And that's especially interesting right now because I just saw an article that the biggest manufacturer of dairy in the U.S., Dean Foods, is in bankruptcy.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's incredible to see the small guys like you being able to do an incredible job with it and just survive, even when people are drinking less milk. Well, I think the reason is they're drinking less of that milk because it's such a low quality. It's not milk anymore. It's been so changed that, it's no longer milk.
No, the number one most allergenic food in America is pasteurized milk. And so more people every year are realizing they're allergic to it or have bad reactions. So, but then they realize that when it's not processed, when it's raw, their body tolerates it just fine. Their body knows what to do with it because it's no longer food when you cook it at 200 plus degrees. So it's a really interesting story that huge corporate business going bankrupt.
Yeah. All right. So you got the cow and you just started with one at the beginning and then you started adding a few or?
Yeah. What happened was I hit the ground running with 20 customers who came every single week to pick up their milk. And we sold out on our milk right away to these 20 customers. So that's when I got my second cow about a month in.
Yeah.
And I had 2 cows for about a year and then we expanded to the third cow. And in Oregon, we have this weird law with raw milk that you can only have 3 cows or fewer. And so I maxed out at 3 cows. And we settled in at about 100 customers a week, year round, with 3 cows. So we were able to maximize production and maintain that. And that made us profitable.
Okay. All right. So let's back up though before that, because you were in a marketing, right? Before you started your farm.
Well, and I didn't even recognize I was doing that, and this was 10 years ago, but this is a strategy I teach my students today that as I was building my farm, I spent a year building the infrastructure and doing farm visits. And as I was learning that and researching, I was sharing that with my friends. Like, we'd get together and our toddlers would play together. And they'd talk about their day and I'd talk about, well, I just went and visited another dairy. And this was just they found it really fascinating. Of course, because many people find our small farm life really unusual. And so just by talking and sharing about what I was doing and also why I was doing it, that this was what was keeping my kids healthy, they just picked up on that passion. And they wanted a piece of it too. So I was able to cultivate this loyal customer base that was ready to buy my product before I even had any product. In turn, yes, I teach that. I teach that today because I didn't really realize what I was doing, but it worked fabulously. And now you can recreate it.
Absolutely. Because those people that we've had relationships with are frequently our biggest fans from the start. And that's how we're going to start building our tribe or our team with those first initial people that we already know.
Exactly. You just get out in your community and talk, whether it's children's play groups or maybe you're in a book club, or I just tell wherever you go, you're just sharing about how you're helping your family or your friends, and they pick up on your passion.
Absolutely. All right. So then we got the 3 cows. And so that was and what year was that? How many years into the farm was that?
Well, I started in 2009.
Okay.
So by the end of 2009, I had the 3rd cow.
Wow.
Or somewhere. Yeah. 2009, 2010.
Okay. So you scaled really quickly because you just had the demand for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit about more of the running of the farm. With the farm, there's always so much to be done. What systems did you set up to make sure that everything got done on the farm and you focused on what needed to be done?
Well, that's really a key question because farms are so full of manual labor. So you could work 18 hours a day and never be done. So it became really clear to me up front that number one, I couldn't do it all. And so I had to decide what was going to be done and what were we just not going to do. And I also realized about a month in that it was unsustainable for me to do everything myself. Because I had 3 kids and a farm job and 3 busy kids doing sports and things like that. So I realized right away it would be totally unsustainable for me and my family. And so hiring was my very first priority. So probably about 2 months in, I was able to hire someone part-time, and it worked out perfectly. She worked for a neighbor farm, but she wanted a few extra hours, and I only needed someone to work a few hours, a couple days a week. So it was a perfect complement.
Okay. All right. So what were the kinds of tasks that you had her do coming in at the beginning of your farming journey?
Well, the key thing was I needed some milk relief, someone to actually milk the cows. So I was doing all the marketing, all the customer management, customer service, all of that. But milking on my farm happened twice a day, morning and night, breakfast time and dinner time, which is why it was long-term, I could see unsustainable. So the very first thing I taught her to do was to milk the cows to give me some relief so I could get to a basketball game in the afternoon, or I didn't have to get up at 4:37 days a week because as a busy mom, that was unsustainable. So first thing, I needed some milking relief.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know if I've told you this, but my sister had a cow for a number of years. And so I had to get up at that 4:30 and minus 20 degrees in New York and try to thaw the milker out. And I mean, she was a great cow. We loved her.
Yeah, that's the thing with dairying is I think it's the hardest, most demanding farm job out there because it's 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no matter what the weather is. So yeah, I could foresee that in the first month where I was doing all the work, all the farm work and the work with customers, I could see it was completely unsustainable.
Yeah. So I think, for other farmer types, the things that they need to get off their plate ASAP is the rote monotonous things like washing bins and harvesting salad mix and even weeding, cultivation, all that kind of stuff. Because again, you can make a really easy process for that and then make it an SOP and then train them. And then they can keep doing it when you work on focus, as you said, the important stuff, which is the marketing, which is the customer service, because that's the customer connection, which is going to make you more money.
Yeah, definitely. I always looked at what were the things that me making the money was key. My farm, my employee wouldn't work if I didn't have money to pay her. So I was the only one who could do those things that brought in income. So that was the highest and best use of my time was marketing and dealing with the customer service, hiring someone at $15 an hour to do the farming tasks so I could do the higher dollar per hour things.
Absolutely. So what's the hardest thing that you've ever done as a farmer? Because farming is not easy and there's always those really challenging things that you have to work through.
Yeah, that was a wild question when I heard you were going to ask that because farming is a hard lifestyle. And so there's so many different directions like death of animals and things like that. I think one of the hardest things that we did that I had to learn to manage myself to fix it was we made the mistake that many farmers make and just expanded too quickly. And what I mean is the 3 cows was fine, but then people wanted other things. They wanted chicken and then the chicken was good. So they wanted beef and they wanted pork. So I started expanding to try to fulfill everyone's needs, which means we got scattered both in the labor requirements and the mental requirements to switch from how do you take care of pigs to cows to dairying and switching tasks. And then it's a marketing nightmare too. So I think the biggest thing was expanding too quickly. And by quickly, I mean, it took a couple years and then to realize, whoa, this is a marketing nightmare. It's more work and less money. So now we need to pivot. And there's a lot of things involved in doing that. Shame. I have to say that shame comes up because when you try to pivot in your business, there's a lot of outside people that will attack you for doing that. So learning to overcome that and just stand up and say, hey, I'm doing what's best for my business, but also my family. So that probably required the most growth of me as a person holistically, like in every area. Not only that, but then you've got a spouse saying, well, that's embarrassing. We used to sell that and now we don't. It's like you can't get caught up in that. So being really solid in knowing that, okay, we made a mistake. Let's pivot. Let's fix that and overcome any emotional hardships there are. But certainly there's so many other hard things, but that's a thing that took 2 to 3 years to make it happen. And I have to say made me the strongest, most decisive business person that I could be.
Mm-hmm. Because if it doesn't come back to the numbers, then you don't know what's happening. And so it sounds like you ran those numbers and saw that it just didn't make sense.
Totally. But often what doesn't make sense on paper, there's a lot of social pressure, which is why people keep going. Mm-hmm. So then you have to be able to stand firm and do what you need to do and be able to take the backlash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And already know that backlash is going to come and have an answer already built for that backlash. So you're not going back on your word because everyone's now begging for something that you technically don't have anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who would you say your mentors were as you built your farm?
Well, so many mentors, famous mentors and people you've never heard of, like the neighbor. I had a neighbor, I got on Craigslist to buy some beef cows. He's an 85-year-old cattle rancher who, when he retired from his teaching job, he took on raising cattle for his retirement. And he just kind of informally took me under his wing and taught me everything about how to pick out good calves and raising them and feeding them and how to care for them. And then one's got pink eye and how do you prevent. He taught me everything I needed to know about raising beef cattle. And there was no money, no nothing. He just did that out of the kindness of his heart. Mm-hmm. And so that was he was a really good example to me for me to be that too. And then I think the one that is most common to a lot of people is Joel Salatin. Mm-hmm. I read his book, Pastured Poultry Profits, 5 years before I started my farm. And so when I started my farm, it was basically taking everything he did with chickens and applying it to dairy cows. And it was the same thing. And then he's been an ongoing mentor because he makes mistakes and he blogs about his mistakes. So I can learn from his mistakes before I have the opportunity to make them. So he's been an ongoing mentor to watch not only how he farms, but how he handles the public too. And then also when we got to visit his farm, what was really cool is here's like America's most famous farmer, and he still reuses, like everything on his farm is reused and upcycled. And it's very neat and tidy, but it's not shiny new. And it's so tempting as farmers to go out and get the shiny new stuff. And that will drive you to broke pretty quick. So it was almost like his farm gave us permission to use all the old stuff and to just make something work. Just use some baling twine to fashion whatever it is you need. Don't go buy the new thing. And, we don't have a tractor. So many farmers want to run out and buy a new tractor. We don't have one. And that was inspired by him saying, look at all the beef cows you can buy with the price of one tractor. So I'd say he's been the person I've learned the most from.
Yeah. And actually, it was the article in the Smithsonian Magazine back in, I think, 2000 or 2001 that actually got me started because I was raised that you couldn't make money on farming. My paternal grandfather grew up on a farm in Maine and was always telling us you can't make money. So he ended up being a minister. And then my parents obviously had no idea about it. But it was really that article of him showing what they were doing at Polyface that just like lit a fire in me. And I was like, so you can actually do this. There's a way to make it profitable. And so that started me down the rabbit hole.
So inspirational. And he's also inspirational because he's direct to consumer. He talks about how he handles the public too, which is so important for all of us.
Which is breaking the paradigm of the farm. You have to have 1 million acres. You have to sell to the commodity. And absolutely.
Yeah, I think we all know that doesn't work in today's world. They're going broke right and left.
Well, I think, even to the point, this is a little bit aside, but we're starting to delve a little bit into the hemp space because, it's huge right now. And so we're obviously looking at it and trying to figure out how we can help farmers in this space.
Okay, that's really fascinating because I tried to buy hay yesterday.
Yeah.
And my hay is 20% higher this year because of the hemp industry. So I hope you do a podcast on that someday, because what's happening is all the hay farmers are switching to hemp because they can make more money, and it's leaving people like me. The price of hay has skyrocketed because there's less of it. So,
well, Charlotte, here's the sad thing. Is that 50 to 70% of those farmers lost money this year on hemp because they're all trying to sell it wholesale. And you and I both know that wholesaling all comes down to the buyer or the broker. And one of the largest buyers of hemp this year kind of went bankrupt and kind of acquired somebody else, which meant they dropped all the farmers' contracts. So there's thousands and thousands of farmers across the U.S. that lost their contracts, that are going out of business. And a lot of them devoted their life savings because they looked at the prices of hemp last year. If someone had just looked at it knowing it was going to be a boom and a bust and just, again, stayed out of it. But yeah, so these farmers that are doing well are, again, direct to consumer. They grew a quarter to a half or 3/4 of an acre, and they're selling to people that are putting it in salves and creams. They're selling it to basically the plants out of the field, $100 a plant. Because if they were to sell it directly to the manufacturer, they'd get maybe, $25 or $50 a plant. They sell it out of the field to the direct consumer, they're getting $100 a plant. They save it and process it into, let's say, the creams and stuff, they're getting multiple $100 a plant. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, even in the new hot things in farming, it all comes back to have your market, know who your people are, sell to them directly.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, good to know. Maybe my hay prices will come down in the next couple of years.
Unless you can feed them hemp plants. And then
I thought, I was like, that would make some really good raw milk, I'll bet.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But it's illegal because the government, of course, is, that's another story.
Yeah, right. Another podcast.
Yes. All right. If there was a magic reset button as relates to starting your farm, what systems and processes would you put in place sooner rather than later?
Well, I think back to that. So I've been in business 10 years, and about the middle 3 years, we expanded and realized that wasn't the way to go and brought it back down. But we lost a lot of money and we lost a lot of forward momentum. So of course, if I had a reset button, I would do exactly what I get to teach farmers to do now, choose that signature product and go with that. And you will make more money and more profitability sooner and longer term when you focus on that one product. So that's totally what I would do, is I'd stick to our signature product and go with that.
Okay, so when you say signature product, you recommend farmers start by focusing on it very narrowly and doing it incredibly well so that they become very well known for that. And then they can start adding other things behind that funnel if they have built out the capacity in their business.
Yeah, the mistake people make is they start out with a product and they don't invest in learning how to sell direct to consumer, because that's a totally separate set of skills. They think if they raise a product, people will come. Well, what happens is the people don't come, they're struggling, the price is really low, they're bleeding money, and they think, oh, well, that's because we got the wrong product, so we'll raise this product. So pretty soon they've got two. Well, you take your same lack of marketing skills to the second product. And so they keep expanding. Sometimes farmers come to me and they've got 10 or 15 things on their website they're trying to sell. Well, then again, it's a marketing nightmare. It dilutes your brand. You aren't known for anything, so you don't sell anything, and they end up going out of business very quickly. So your brand is, what do you do? How do you help people? It's that one thing. And you just can't be known for 5 or 10 things.
Absolutely. And with that, I'd like to stop here and take a quick break. In a minute, we'll be back with Charlotte Smith. If you're looking to shave hours off your week and become a thriving farmer, you're going to want to head over to growingfarmers.com/free resources and download our free resource bundle. It contains ebooks on our profitable farm toolkit, increasing efficiency and safety in your wash and shed, winter growing techniques, and our 30 farms to follow on Instagram. Now, if you haven't already followed us, we're Growing Farmers on Instagram. That's our handle. So head on over there and follow us. But you can also go to growingfarmers.com/free resources and download our free resource bundle today, and it will help you shave hours off your week and become more of a thriving farmer. So we are back with Charlotte Smith from 3 Cal Marketing. And Charlotte, you're out of Oregon, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay, and where in Oregon? Because how far are you from, let's say...
Portland.
Portland.
We're about 30 minutes southwest of Portland, right in the Willamette Valley.
Yep.
Grass capital of the world. Beautiful, beautiful country.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting too. And maybe I should have talked about this earlier, but you sold or sell most of your products from your farm.
Yeah. And that's because the Oregon law states that you can't deliver raw milk and people have to pick it up at the farm. So from the get-go, I was not allowed to go to farmers markets, which was a blessing in disguise. At first I thought, oh, that's too bad. But it is so much easier that I'm not schlepping half-gallon jars of milk to a farmer's market,
Yeah.
Everyone comes to us. And it's really helped with the marketing because when people get a sense of your farm and the space, it's an experience. They love coming out every week to get their order because it's beautiful. And it's different than living in the suburbs where most of them live. It's a way to get out, experience something new.
All right. So let's pivot to that marketing because we've been kind of hinting into the whole way through. You actually talked about earlier how you started marketing your farm to those women and then that just truly grew and expanded. How did you incentivize them to share with their friends? Did you just create such a compelling story they like to talk about it, or talk to us through that?
When you have a product that's helping people and that people are excited to meet you and come to your farm, they can't help but share that. So I don't teach people to incentivize to get customers. Okay. It's all about when you find out how your product is helping people, what is the problem they're solving or the goal they're trying to reach by using your product, and you share that. People can't help but share about it. Like, for instance, people come out to our farm store, and so there's a baby calf, or the horse is always there they can feed an apple to. And so just in their everyday life, or they'd post a picture on Facebook without any incentivization and just say, oh, my toddler got to feed Jack an apple out at the farm where we get our milk. So this happened all the time. Or they'd take a picture of their kid holding the bottle feeding the new calf and put that on social media. So I never had to ask people to share. When you create this experience for your customers, they can't help but share. Or saying things like, here's my fresh apple pie I baked when we picked them up at the farm this week. And then people naturally are curious, like, what farm? What do you mean? You go to a farm to pick apples? You don't get them at the store? And so when you create this excitement around your product and it helps, I've had people, there was a lady in Crate and Barrel and she was talking to her daughter, and one of my customers overheard her talking to her daughter about her horrible diagnosis of 85 food allergies. And my customer just happened to say, there's hope for you. And the woman at Crate and Barrel is like, who is this weird woman? And she says, there's hope. Have you ever heard of chicken broth and healing your gut? And the woman was like, no. And she gave her our card. And so I have gotten referrals and customers from the wildest places and other cities and across the country, because you show people how your product helps people. It's not just about a billboard of, hey, buy our product, it's the best, whatever. This is what we're doing to transform lives. This is how we're helping families. And people can't help but share that.
Absolutely. So one of the things you also stress is knowing your people, or identifying who that ideal customer avatar is. Why is that so important? Well,
there's this saying that if you're trying to sell to everybody, you'll sell to nobody. And so if you try to appeal in your marketing, which is your writing, if you try to appeal to men and women and retired people and working people and single people and divorced people and married people and people with kids and people without kids, your marketing is going to be so general and diluted that nobody will connect with it. You won't be making any specific references because you don't want to offend anyone. So then you aren't selling anything. But when you narrow down and you decide that you're going to sell to a 40-year-old woman with 2 high school children, and she, some specific things about her, and your marketing speaks to her, what happens is then you have this broader appeal. So your customer base that you see coming to your farmer's market booth or your farm store is still made up of old and young, men and women, single and married, children or no children, homeschool or public school. It's still made up of this diverse customer base. And they have this strong connection with you because you've narrowed down your target customer. And so it's really a matter of that is who you speak to in your marketing. But of course, you're going to serve everyone who shows up, and everyone will show up when you get that specific. And that's something that my students really have to trust me on, because it's really scary as a business owner to think, wait a minute, I'm going to just talk to this one age-specific person in my marketing. They're really scared to do it, but once they do it, I'm not kidding, their sales will double or triple in 1 month. So,
wow.
So when they have that experience of, oh, that's what it means to focus your marketing on your ideal customer, then they realize they have much broader appeal.
Very cool. So why is marketing changing for farmers? 'Cause I know, like, with this rise of the internet and social media, that everything is changing. What are you seeing farmers doing differently now, your students, that's really working?
Well, what works is they have to be flexible and they have to be open to it. If you say, well, this is how our farms always sold this product, so therefore that's the only way we're ever going to do it, and you don't be flexible with what's happening and food trends, you're going to struggle. So people are used to convenience of one-click shopping, period. So how can we can't all offer that, but how close can we get? Gone are the days of the novelty of buying a quarter beef that was so novel 15 years ago. That's really wearing off. I want to go to I don't want a freezer full of meat. I want to have a couple of steaks and a roast and a couple pounds of hamburger. And I want to go to the farm once a month or something and pick that up. So you really narrow your customer base in today's world if you're trying to sell bulk. People are really narrowing down their taste. You got to be on top of diet trends. Paleo was really big. Then that's gone away, or, really quieted down. And keto has taken over. Intermittent fasting has taken over. So how can you tap into fasting? Or stay on top of diet trends, and then talk to your customer. You're still selling the same product, but you're talking to your customer about the things that they're aware of today. So, and then the convenience is a big part of it. People don't want whole chickens. They want cut up chickens. They want chicken breasts. So find a butcher who is able to accommodate you there. We're lucky in Oregon, within an hour's drive, I have meat, both, pork and beef butchers, but also the chicken processor who will cut all that up.
Wow.
But figure out how you can make your food more convenient, because people are looking for convenience. They're downsizing. They don't want freezers and freezers full of meat. So farmers have to be really flexible and figure out how can we be more convenient in what we sell today.
Absolutely. All right. So how should farmers be using their websites?
Well, what they shouldn't be is most farmers' websites are kind of a billboard for what they have for sale and telling their story and their farming practices. Well, that's not going to engage someone. So the best thing you can do on your website is speak directly to your ideal customer in a couple sentences so that she knows that you can help her. And you find out that information by talking to your customers and making notes. So when I look at a farmer's website, I want to be able to identify their ideal customer right away, just in the words they say. And if their website instead is, we're a 5th generational farm and we practice rotational grazing or regenerative farming, a woman shopping, for the reasons she's shopping, her eyes are going to glaze over and she's going to click away. So your website should be relating to your ideal customer so that she thinks, wow, this farm can read my mind. I want to talk to them. I want to find out more about what they're about.
So you probably want pictures of that ideal client on there as well, using your product. You want to be speaking to their lifestyle, speaking to how they use your food. Yeah,
and that's what I teach step by step in all of my classes, even my free classes. I teach them how to reflect your ideal customer, even in your product descriptions. Like, instead of just T-bone steaks, how about something like, when your husband trips over your Nordstrom shopping bag, be sure to have these T-bones handy to bring out for dinner so he doesn't quit. So
yes.
Even in your product descriptions, you're talking to your ideal customer. So she's like, oh my gosh, this farmer gets me. I need to go out there. And what happens then is price is no object. She doesn't care how much your T-bone steaks cost, because she's not buying based on the cost. She's buying based on, you have just connected with her and built this relationship through the internet with her, and she can't wait to buy from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because frequently it's the people with the $500 shop, handbags that are complaining about the $4 eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you take away the price conversation, it's not about the price. It's about, you are there to help them. What is the value? It's not in the price. They get that. And then you're not competing on price.
So let's talk a bit about social media. Social media is obviously, a lot of people don't understand it. How do you recommend farms, again, very high level, use it to bring new people in?
Sure. So social media only should come after your email list and website are working to make you money.
Okay.
A lot of people think, well, an Instagram account is free, a Facebook business page is free, so therefore I'm going to skip the hard work of building a website and use those. But they won't work for you that way. Those are not platforms to sell on. Those are platforms to build a relationship and get them over to your email list, where then you can reach out to them consistently. So in social media, there's no way to consistently show up in front of your people. Only a tiny, tiny percentage of people will see your posts. And one of the number one rules of marketing is you've got to build that consistent relationship with them. They need to communicate with you every single week. That'll never happen on social media. So that is a place to go have fun and funnel people into your email list through the free gifts you're offering them, or the checklists that will help them clean out their pantry, or instant pot recipes for beef roast for winter. So you funnel them to your email list that way, but social media is where you relate to them and have fun with them and build relationships, and you share things that will help attract other people, potential customers, to you too.
Okay, so what you're saying is that is not for where you need to do your sales. The sales is through email.
No, and you get penalized for doing sales there. And then the ad spend. So then you might want to spend money on ads. Well, the ad spend goes up every single year to reach fewer and fewer people. Oh, yeah. So I've found that placing ads on social media is really, it's only working for big companies now with big advertising budgets. The best way farmers can use that to build their business is to just have organic posts where you're not putting money on them, and serve your customers. Like, for instance, my weekend before Thanksgiving, I always put my turkey brine recipe on Instagram right in the post. So I'm going to get so many more followers just because that turkey brine recipe is right there. So that's helping them. I'm not selling. I've already, we sell out on our poultry a couple months in advance. So I don't have anything I can't sell them a turkey, but I can serve them. They will relate to us. They'll think, oh, I want to know more about them. I'm going to sign up for their email list. And then they're on the list for next year. Gotcha.
Very, very cool. All right. As we wrap up, let's shift a little bit. What do you see as the biggest mistakes that beginning farmers make?
Oh, I'm going to go back to the mistake we made. They expand too quickly, both in the number of products they have to sell and the variety, the diversity. So a diversified farm, we can all agree that's best for the soil, but for a small farm, it's a marketing nightmare. You got to wait till you're far bigger to be able to expand to chickens, pork, and beef, and a vegetable CSA, and the flowers, and all that. Or they will expand too quickly in the number. So they will do 100 meat chickens this year. And those are really easy to sell to the low-hanging fruit, which is family and friends. And they think, well, 100, we sold out. That was nothing. Let's raise 1,000 next year. But they don't realize that they still don't know how to market, because they didn't market to the friends and family. And so then I get a phone call that says, we have 900 chickens in a walk-in freezer. Can you sell them for us? So then they don't have money to get started for the next season to buy the chicks and feed and all that. And they struggle until they finally go out of business. So 2 ways. They expand the number of their signature product too quickly without learning to market and investing money and learning how to market, or they expand the product offerings they have. And both of those things are the biggest mistakes I see, and they do farmers in.
So that's the fatal mistake.
It is. However, I'm an example, and a lot of my students are examples of you can pivot and reverse that just as quickly. You can decide. I have people that will listen to one of my podcast episodes that, talks about the signature product, and they'll drop everything else today except their signature product, and they will see their sales shoot to the sky, over the next couple months. So there is hope. You can pivot. You don't have to take 5 years to undo that mistake. Stop right now. Fix it right now.
That is great advice. If you could pick one, what would be your favorite farming tool?
So many. So picking one, I think, would be my very expensive electric fence charger machine.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I have wasted a lot of hours with large livestock. The fences have to be perfect. I've spent a lot of time trying to find shorts. And then so go for the expensive one, and it makes that job a lot less time consuming.
Okay. No, that's good advice. Yeah. So that's when I have animal people on, that's pretty much, they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's such a key part. So where can people find more about you and your work?
Well, my marketing website, 3cowmarketing.com. I've got all kinds of, free, we'll teach you how to set up your own website for free. There's free email marketing training. I also have the Profitable Mindset podcast where I talk about marketing, and also you won't be successful at marketing if you don't work on your personal development, such as confidence and your stress level and anxiety and all that. So that's a combination of all those things there too.
Absolutely. And you are speaking at our upcoming summit too, as well.
Yeah. Yep. Really looking forward to being a part of that.
Yeah. And so what's the topic you're speaking on?
3 steps to a profitable farm.
Very cool. So you're in day 2, which is our marketing day. So I'm super excited. When I recorded that with you, went upstairs and told my wife, oh my gosh, that is such the key principles that I keep seeing farms failing in. So I'm so glad that you wrapped it up like you did, because it makes it so easy for farmers to understand.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So we're super excited to have you. Again, thank you for your time today. This has been fabulous. Can't wait to share this with the audience. They're going to love it. And thank you for what you do, because you're helping farmers all around the world actually make a living again. So that's
awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So there you have it. Another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the